Let's now take a look at the questions you need to ask from the customer in order to be able to give him the best solution in terms of suggesting the proper tooling, proper optionals for the Orion and the Phoenix. First of all, for the machining center, you have to ask him what is he wanting to process on the machine, whether it's aluminium, it's UPVC, whether it's both or anything else apart from this. Next, what are the productivity requirements per 8-hour shift? We'll need the machining drawings, and without the machining drawings, we cannot do any kind of time calculations or proceed further for the proposal. If you need an accurate proposal, you have to give this kind of machining drawing in which all the dimensions are given. See, this is a component that needs to be machined, and each and every dimension relevant is given. The dimension of the hole, how far it is from the reference point, let's say for example here, or this machining, or a slot, what is the total length of the slot, what is the width of the slot, what are the position of the two center points here, have to be necessarily given in order to be able to assess what tooling will be required and what kind of times it would take. Then you have to ask what will be the maximum length he needs to process in one setup. I am sure you would recollect that both Phoenix and Orion have the ability of the profiles to be protruding out. Even if you have a profile which is longer than the bed length, the profile can protrude out of the machine while the work is going on one particular area where it needs to be done. What are the maximum number of setups desired for processing a particular length? This will help you to take a decision on whether you need to propose a 4 meter, a 7 meter, or a 9.6 meter or a 10 meter machine. Whether a two-station working or pendulum working modification for double station working is required. This depends again on the productivity requirements and on the machining requirements. If productivity requirement is such that doing away with loading unloading time or minimizing loading unloading time helps, then you should go for pendulum working on the machine or two-station working on the machine. What are the safety parameters and how much would noise lessening help? You should ask the customer. This will help you take a decision on the viability of proposing the machine with a safety perimeter fence or a fully enclosed machine. You can also suggest that a fully enclosed machine is far more imposing and impressive to a customer who visits the factory for our customer. I mean, our customer's customer would be more impressed looking at a fully enclosed machine. Then you have to ask him whether he would like to optimize the cuts, and would he also like to put a barcode on each cut profile length. This will help you decide on whether to propose a barcode reader or not. Whether he is cutting threads on the machine. This helps you to know whether you need to propose a thread compensator and a holding mill solid box. You have to ask, do you want to end mill your transoms? So in that case, if he says yes, you have to propose a side end milling cutter. Are there any special tools that he wants? For example, he has a requirement of end milling, but the depth of the width of the tenon that he makes is pretty big. Then we would have to get back to the customer after consulting with our principals whether we can use a side end mill cutter which has a bigger thickness than 10 millimeter. Normally 6 millimeters. Normally the cutters are 100 millimeter diameter and 6 millimeter thickness. But if you need to machine, let's say, tenon that is 30 millimeters deep, in that case you could make it faster by reducing the number of passes, and you can use a 15 millimeter thick cutter. But this confirmation has to come from the manufacturer of the machine. You have to ask whether any software requirements are there. Do you want to program your machine from your office and then download the programs on the machine? If yes, then you have to propose LGF software version for PC Office. Would you like to have the ability to process two jobs by keeping them side by side? Of course, the customer would certainly say yes, but then you have to examine whether it is possible to place two jobs and machine them in one go. If there is any machining operation which needs to be done on two faces of the two jobs facing each other, that is in between the two jobs, then it may not be advisable to go for double clamping or double profile working. You have to ask whether he needs any kind of panels to be processed. Now this would mean, for example, he has a facade and he is wanting to cut a circular cutout in an aluminium sheet of a particular length and width for putting in an exhaust fan. Now that is when you will need panel clamps. So you have to ask whether this kind of work is to be done or not. Does he want a power backup for the computer on the machine? This would help you to decide whether you have to propose a UPS or not. Are any additional clamps required apart from the standard clamps offered? Then you can offer additional standard clamps. Do you want to reverse the program offset so that you can work on the same program from two ends? That means you place one profile on station A with its top pointing towards the left and the other profile on station B with its top pointing towards the right. In that case, you will need a second stop fence for the right hand side. How many tools would you like to have on the machine at a point of 5 or 10? So that will help you to decide whether you need to propose an ATC of 5 or 10 tool positions. Many of these questions the customers themselves would not have an answer to. So you have to get these details from the customer and then talk to the technical department, who will then sit down on this and work out what will be the best options that can be given to the customer.